For residents of Lahaina who found themselves trying to outrun deadly wildfires, the difference between life and death meant whether they were willing to disobey the authorities. A new AP report reveals that road closures trapped people stuck in traffic gridlock, desperately trying to flee the flames. Some survivors say they were only able to escape was by blowing past government barriers by car or on foot.
Nearly 1,000 fire victims remain missing and unaccounted for. However, as one user on Twitter pointed out, mainstream media just isn't that plugged into the story. Tuesday, CNN's Wolf Blitzer devoted a full hour to covering former President Trump's upcoming surrender in Georgia, but made no mention of those still missing in Hawaii.
Journalist Glenn Greenwald seized on liberal media's Trump addiction, tweeting, quote, "For the vast bulk of the U.S. corporate media, there's no sense that journalism is supposed to be about adversarially scrutinizing what the current president and government are doing. 3 years into Biden's presidency, they barely mention Biden, still fixate on Trump." So, yeah, all these reports we're hearing for the situation in Maui, it is fascinating. It sounds like, and there really needs to be investigation, a lot of mismanagement by people who are supposed to warn, coordinate on emergencies. These road closures, barriers getting in the way of people like escaping. Like the fire is coming, the cars are starting to melt around them, and they got to get out. They got to get out and run for it, and there are actual barriers. Of course, we know that the emergency system, which is supposed to be a very state-of-the-art emergency system, failed to go off. Obviously, there are a lot of questions about the alleged delay in releasing the water to actually take care of the fire. A lot of speculations about why that was done. In addition to all the other concerns one might have, at the end of the day, you need, it's not even ideological. You need competent, even conservatives, liberals, leftists, libertarians, everyone. We want whatever government we have, we want it competently run. Yeah, and this seems like a big screw up.
There were some comparisons to Uvalde because there were these stories that people were trying to flee. They were directed by officials back toward the flames in the other direction, and the people who survived in those cases were the ones that ignored the police or whoever the emergency officials were, jumped over the barricades and followed their gut and what their senses were telling them to do. There was another heartbreaking story of a mother who tried to get back into their house to save their child, and they were told, well, we've evacuated this area, there's no one in there, just sit tight, I'm sure we'll find them. Once the fires were put out, she went back to her house and found her child dead, burned from the fire, clutching their family dog. Ugh. I mean, and there's all these questions, obviously. But for emergency officials telling me not to go back, could I still have my child? I mean, it's absolutely heartbreaking.
That does remind us of the Uvalde situation, where, again, these are people that work for us who are supposed to be, and to be an emergency services provider, to be a government official coordinating emergency, to be a police officer, to be a firefighter. I'm not saying these are easy jobs.
No.
But that is the job, is to put yourself in harm's way, is to have a clear head during a crisis. And we're supposed to rely on that. And the people who do it well are heroes, no questions about it. But that doesn't mean we don't get to object when there is gross misconduct that results in people dying unnecessarily, as was abundantly, absolutely the case in Uvalde when the police prevented parents from rushing in to rescue their children, congregated outside the door. I know it's a dangerous situation. The shooter had a gun, a high capacity weapon, but all of the training suggests you don't wait. You don't wait for an hour and 10 minutes or whatever it is. You go in, you confront it. Similarly here, I don't know, obviously there's no training with the emergency system. It's just supposed to actually work. But this whole, don't go this way because the road is the road dangerous because it's like a treacherous path, but there's a wall of flames coming the other direction, and you're like, well, we can't let people go down this pathway because a stair is out. Like, come on. Yeah. There's a wall of flames coming.
Yeah. Now, I do think that some of the criticism that, our friend Greenwald raised is a little bit off base. I don't know that covering the fact that a former president is going to be arraigned is a misuse of airtime. I certainly think it's a relevant national story. There's a complaint that they're not covering Biden enough. I think that Biden absolutely should be covered critically by the media, but I think all elites, powerful people, former presidents included, need to be covered. And to the extent that there, I think, is a sincere interest on the right in the criminal justice system treating everybody equally, that involves not just ignoring the fact that an unprecedented thing is happening right now. Of the President of the United States of America, the former president and someone who many people think is still a president, is about to be arraigned in a courthouse and have a mugshot taken today. Moreover, if we're going to be critical of the media not asking incisive questions and doing good journalism, adversarial journalism, you also have to bring the focus on Tucker Carlson in his interview with Donald Trump last night, who, as we discussed in an earlier segment, did not ask him hardly anything of political relevance. There was a lot of, did Epstein get killed or someone going to kill you, Panama Canal, not sure what that's all about. And then when he did talk about the things that are of national significance right now, the charges against him, there was no real interrogation of, okay, well, how likely are you actually to be incarcerated for this? Do you think that this is going to prevent you from running for office? What are your lawyers telling us? What should voters think? What are the actual concerns here? How are you going to address the charges that you actually conspired to submit a false slate of electors? What's going on here? Assure the public.
Right. I'm not the biggest fan of criticism, media criticism that goes along the lines of well, your cover. I object to your coverage
cover this,
choices,
not that.
Because the reality is, well, and sometimes specializing on some kind of coverage is good because this coverage is being missed elsewhere.
Sure.
And like if you want coverage of X, you can turn on. There are so many news outlets: cable news, online news, print news. There's so many ways to get the news, and honestly, viewers can find the things they want covered. And our own channel is like this. We respond. We cover more of the things our viewers want us to talk about, less of the things that they're less interested in. There's some push and pull here. Sometimes we think there's
occasionally a demand a labor segment.
Well, right. But and I'm sure Glenn is like that. I'm sure for his audience, he's covering a lot of the things that he knows his viewers care about. So that criticism can always, in my view, go a little. Yeah.
Also, all the time that's spent saying you're not covering Maui could be spent just covering Maui. And this is the same thing with what we saw in East Palestine. The appetite for covering East Palestine on the right went away when it was no longer a useful cudgel against Joe Biden.
But I will say, because I'm not picking on Glenn at all, this is a criticism I myself used to get tons of from just like normie liberal media people.
Oh, same.
When I was writing earlier in my career, I was primarily writing about the campus free speech issues, and it would always be, I can't tell you how many times I got you covered, whatever, the local pro-life group getting told they can't canvas here, but you haven't covered X, Y, and Z things, even when I had written about X, Y, Z things. And then when I would write about X, Y, Z things, they don't care. Crickets. They only coming after me. And and they would even do you're covering that, but you're not writing about how evil Trump is or something. I'm like, that's not even my beat.
That's
you can
what
find
I get a
plenty
lot.
of reporting on this at my magazine.
I get a lot
You can find more reporting on this in my magazine. But I'm a specialist on this thing. So those criticisms in the past, I have a bad history with them. I think
I get a lot of
bad faith.
I get a lot of why aren't you covering Trump? And it's because it's covered plenty. But in the case of Uvalde, I just want to stick on this. I want to make this really clear. There is one consistent reporting group that I have seen stay in Uvalde and demonstrate an actual investment in what's going on with the people of Uvalde. They aren't right corporate media, they aren't left corporate media, and they are not right independent media. It's the status quo.
You mean East Palestine?
East Palestine. Sorry, what did I say?
It's Uvalde.
Oh, sorry, East Palestine.
Yeah.
And
that's what I thought.
It is the status quo. So when I'm looking for media that I can trust, when I'm looking for people whose politics that I trust, and I want to get a sense of if they really care about the people that they're talking about, rather than just using them as a political cudgel, and I see over and over again that it is left independent media, that matters to me.
All right, well, that does it for us for today. We got the debate out of our system, I think. It was.
I could do another 45 minutes.
Well, you probably will be, because you have your own podcast to see to. Briahna asked me to join her, and I said, I think I'm done for the week.
It's okay. I've conscripted another guest. If you want more of this, you can join me over on Bad Faith on Monday.
I am closing down shop for the week. Of course, we will be back next week, right? It's Thursday? I'm not hallucinating this.
Tune in tomorrow.
For Rising Friday, and they will be the Friday duo will be giving you all the content you love and expect to see. Briahna and I will be back next week.
Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any content. And for those of you who prefer to listen while you're on the go, you can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Like, subscribe, share, do all that stuff. Have a good weekend.